Ramsuratkumar, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, Jaya Guru Raya.
भगवान श्री योगी राम सूरत कुमार की जय। सर्वं योगी राम सूरत कुमारार्पणमस्तु। நாம புஷ்பங்களை அனைவரும் சேர்ந்து பகவானுடைய பாதத்தில் சமர்ப்பித்து விட்டோம். Now forgetting that this is time for English, I resorted to Tamil. So now, with grateful pranams to Bhagwan, we have submitted our today's Nama Sankirtan. And now we shall have some glimpses from the spiritual ministry of Bhagwan. Let's go back to Sanadi Street, the early 80s. Bhagwan was talking about the sadhus. He said, if you feed 1,00,000 sadhus, there might be one Vivekananda among them. It has been reiterated in the Vedas that the great masters would come in the form of only beggars. And beggary is not a crime. The beggars are not criminals. It might be so in the foreign countries, because there the criminals become beggars. But here in India, there may be some criminals, but most of the beggars are genuine, and some of them are real sadhus. So he kept on talking about feeding the sadhus. And then he said how the sadhus, the true sadhu, would not save anything for himself. The one thing that he would do is distribute whatever he gets to people around suitably. He would not keep anything for himself. And then he talked about one Gomati Das Maharaj. In the north, some of the sadhus would throw a bandara. In bandara, the many sadhus would be fed. Suitably. So when once he was feeding the sadhus and people, it happened that there was a shortage for the ghee. People were already seated. They had started to distribute rotis and chawal, the rice. And suddenly they found, after serving quite a lot of people, Suddenly they found running out of ghee. Immediately they came back, they came to Gomti Das Maharaj and reported, Swami, what do we do now? We never expected this. Now there are many more people yet to be served. We cannot say serving one part of the group and not the other with some excuse. What shall we do? Swami Gomti Das did not feel any regret. He simply said, how much more do you need? They said, we need 3 kgs of, minimum 3 kgs of ghee. And they expected him to go and buy butter from the market and make ghee. Instead, he said something that surprised people around him. He said, go to Sarayu, the Sarayu river, and bring 3 kgs of water from there. So immediately they rushed there and brought 3 kgs of water. And then Maharaj said, okay, now you start serving. They looked at each other, but they knew better than questioning their great master. So sincerely they started to serve. And they found water turning into ghee. After the Bandara was over, Gomti Das Maharaj called the volunteers and said, look, now we owe something to the Sarayu river. You go to the market now, buy 3 kgs of ghee, bring it over here. See, they followed suit. And then Gomti Das Maharaj said, one of you can take it to the river and pour the 3 kgs of ghee into the river. And then Maharaj added, whatever we take from people, we have to return. Otherwise, it will be debt for us. We'll have to pay back sometime or the other. It may even take a birth or 2. Whatever we borrow from people, we must make it a point to return it. Otherwise, it becomes a sin. So he returned 3 kgs of ghee to the Sarayu river. All that he took was water. It turned into ghee while serving. Now Maharaj poured 3 kgs of ghee into the river. So Bhagwan said, they do not keep anything for themselves. They have to distribute everything, and they don't borrow. Sadhus don't borrow. Nor do they save anything for themselves. This is a special characteristic of the sadhus. Another time, Shri Gajrajji had gone to the temple in search of Bhagwan. He found him there near Brahmatirtham. And Bhagwan was sitting there on one of the steps. A sadhu came. He had a tiffin box in his hand. He opened it, came straight to Bhagwan and said, it was some sambar rice he had picked up from Ramanashram. So he offered it to Bhagwan. He said, Swami, please take. So since Sadhu was offering, Bhagwan took just a little, a morsel of food. And then the Sadhu offered again heartily, Swami, please take more. Since he was very insistent, Bhagwan took a little more and then said, enough for this beggar. Then the Sadhu took the tiffin box, went to a corner there and sat. He started to eat morsel after morsel. He saw some crows, immediately he threw some food to them. Soon the dogs around found the crows having a feast. And you know what they do? They come and chase the crows and start to eat. So when the dogs came, as soon as the Sadhu saw the dogs, he began to throw some food and then he would eat. And again he would throw something to the crows and then he would eat. And that way he finished the whole thing, sharing the food with the crows and the dogs. Bhagwan was watching the whole thing from the distance. And then he turned to Gajaraji and said, Shri Gajaraji, did you see that? He said, true Sadhu. See, he is not keeping anything for himself. As soon as he collected some food from Ramanashram, he had come to Arunachaleshwar. He offered this beggar. He offered something to the crows. He offered something to the dogs. And the remaining is what he took finally. This is a true characteristic of a sadhu. So you see, a sadhu would be a beggar, would at once be a beggar and a sadhu. He has no greed, not even desire for things. And whatever he gets, the chance meal, he would distribute and eat. There are many other stories about the sadhus. Now we shall see one more glimpse. At that time, Tamil Nadu government was planning to introduce the law for the beggars. They did not want any beggars at all, so they wanted to adopt the Western law. They were going to abolish beggary completely. They were discussing it, and it was soon going to come as a law. Now Bhagwan was with Gajaraji. He reached the temple. When he reached the temple, he saw the sadhus and beggars mixed up, and they were all seated in several rows in front of Arunachaleshwara Mandir. Immediately he started to walk between them. There were rows of beggars and rows of sadhus. One could not distinguish at all. Swami began to walk the aisle between the two rows. He walked up and down several times, blessing every one of them, every beggar, every sadhu. For quite some time he was doing that, at the end of which he came and sat with the sadhus right in the front. He just sat there with his coconut shell. Soon people started to come, and people who knew Bhagwan Yogi Ramsuratkumar, immediately they would come and prostrate before him, offer something, either an apple or some flower or something, and then seeing him seated with the beggars and sadhus, they would throw some coins into the others also, others begging bowl. Some people would come, prostrate before him, and would go inside the temple. Some people would come and garland him, offer their namaskars, and then go and sit at a distance watching the whole thing. Finally, there was one man who came with a mala and lots of apples, fruits. He came in search of Bhagwan. He had come in search of Bhagwan. He found the door locked. Bhagwan's residence. Then he came in search of Bhagwan. And there he found Bhagwan seated in the very first row, at the first place. Immediately he prostrated, put that huge mala on him, and gave several apples. Then Bhagwan said, Justice Venkataswamy, do you see these beggars and sadhus, how they are seated? Do you think they are rich people? If you bring about the law abolishing this beggary, where will these people go? They won't get even a little to eat. And what would happen? Many of them would turn to stealing, and some would turn into criminals. Can't you see? Right from Vedas, even the Vedas approve of beggary. Right from the Vedic times, the ancient rishis begged food and ate. This has been our tradition. In India, beggary should not be abolished. India is not like Western countries. Our culture is very different. Its foundation is spiritual unity. Please do not bring this law. Please do whatever you can to stop it. And that's when people knew that it was Justice Venkataswamy from Supreme Court had come all the way to pay his respects to Bhagwan, who was seated with the sadhus and beggars. And then they say after that, they removed it. So Bhagwan played a leela, knowing that Justice Venkataswamy was coming in search of him. He walked among the rows of these beggars and sadhus, blessed every one of them, and then came and sat in the first place, the first row. And whatever Justice Venkataswamy gave him, the money, the apple, everything he distributed among the sadhus and the beggars there. And then he blessed every one of them and left for his house with the justice. So you see how he demonstrated the need for abolishing the law instead of beggary. This is how the divine arranges things suitably, and everything that they do is towards a cause. So Bhagwan often said, if you throw a meal to a beggar, you are not going to lose your wealth, nor would the beggar become a millionaire. What do you lose? On the contrary, you earn a lot of punya. And who knows, the beggar could be a great saint. So do not do this. If you happen to see any beggar anywhere, just help him with a little food. Otherwise, give him some coins so that he will get something to eat or drink. This is our dharma, he said. Now this Bhagwan is here right in front of us, with his raised hand, the divine beggar. But once when Nachur Swami had come, every year he would come and speak on Yoga Vasishtam or Bhagavatam. In one of his speeches he said, those divine people who carry the begging bowl, their begging bowl is there only to give what we need. It is like Amuda Surabhi, unending flow of gifts from the coconut shell. We are the true beggars, he said, because we beg God for something or the other all the time. We may have wealth and we still want something, and then we beg for it. So who are the beggars? They are the givers. He said the divine beggar was the divine giver of boons. And we are the true beggars. So today also we beg Bhagwan Yogi Ramsuratkumar, the great giver. Bhagwan, we beg you again and again, we, the poor beggars, unable to do anything in the prevalent situation. We beg you for the bestowal of that great, great, great blessing that would free the entire world from the virulent virus, from the grip of the virulent virus and its variants. We beg you for bringing normalcy everywhere in the world so that the children can go to school, the students can go to college, and the working people could return to their offices and companies. Bhagwan, we beg you again and again to root out the fear and other negativities from the minds of people and to stop the spread of the disease, to enter the medicines so that it would work and kill the viruses. And Bhagwan, we want a special gift of grace for enough medicine to be available for all those who need it. And again we beg you to give protection to all those brave laborers who work day and night at the very risk of their life only to save other lives. Please give them protection and all-round welfare. We beg you again for a boost to economy. We beg you, we always beg, we'll keep on begging you, day after day after day, for that blessing which would make it possible for us to chant your name incessantly. We beg you again for the right attitude to life, the attitude of being a good instrument in your hands with gratitude. And above all, we beg you for that supreme blessing to be able to see only your presence in everything and everyone, only your blessing in every happening of life. Jai Yogi Ramsuratkumar.